So if you really think about it, basically 200 years, technology has followed this exact same rule of gravity.
Right.
It replaced the basement first. The manual labor, the physical trades, all those highly repetitive tasks.
Yeah, the heavy lifting, literally.
Literally. And if you wanted safety from automation, you just climbed the stairs, you went to college, developed some specialized knowledge, and moved into those cognitive jobs up in the penthouse.
The safe harbor?
Exactly, the safe harbor.
Yeah.
For 2 centuries, that penthouse was just, well, it was the safest place in the whole economy. But today, the rules of gravity have completely inverted.
Yeah.
The penthouse is flooding first.
It really is, and it's just this profound disorientation. And for the corporate leaders, the directors, the executives who are listening to this right now, that water is literally rising around your ankles.
It's terrifying.
It is, because the historical playbook that you've relied on your entire career, it's suddenly entirely obsolete.
And that is exactly the core reality we are unpacking today. Welcome to our Amplified Impact Deep Dive. Our mission right now is to dissect exactly why treating this wave of artificial intelligence like, just another standard tech rollout is becoming a fatal leadership mistake.
Yeah, fatal is the right word for it.
It really is. And on the table today, we have this stack of incredibly insightful materials drawn directly from Scott Wise's AI for Leaders program, which you can find over at scottwise.ai. We're specifically looking at his foundational article, AI Disruption is Different.
Which is fantastic, by the way.
Oh, it's so good. And we're pairing that with a comprehensive statistical case study they put together, aggregating all this fresh data from BCG, MIT, and Goldman Sachs.
Right. And the intention here is to move beyond just marveling at the technology, right? We all know it's cool.
Yeah.
But we want to extract the underlying mechanics of why this disruption completely defies history.
Yeah. And more importantly, we want to provide a concrete, data-backed blueprint for what you actually need to do differently in your organization, like on Monday morning, just to avoid becoming obsolete.
So the source material actually opens with this scenario that I think perfectly isolates the confusion so many leaders are feeling right now.
Oh, the lunch and learn story.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Scott Wise is conducting this lunch and learn with a group of really senior executives, and the room is just tense.
I can imagine.
Yeah, the pressure to adopt AI is super heavy. And finally, someone just asks the question that everyone else is honestly too afraid to voice out loud. They just say, why is AI actually any different than previous technology advancements?
Which honestly is the most natural question in the world to ask.
It is. Because if you look at the track record of human innovation, the pattern is remarkably consistent. Think about the Industrial Revolution.
Right, steam engines and mechanical looms.
Exactly. They arrived, and what got automated? Physical muscle. Human beings moved off the fields, they left the artisanal manual trades, and they went into factories to manage the machines.
And then, the computer revolution hits in the 20th century.
Right, and we saw the exact same pattern, just one floor up.
Right, mainframes and desktop computers. They automated the clerical and transactional work.
Yeah, the human calculators, the switchboard operators, bookkeepers doing those manual ledger entries. The human response to technology has literally always been vertical evasion.
Vertical evasion, I like that.
Yeah, you automate the routine task and you elevate the human worker.
You move up into that safe harbor of cognitive work. Strategy, judgment, creative problem solving, nuanced analysis.
Okay.
Because the underlying assumption has always been, well, a machine can swing a hammer and a machine can tally a spreadsheet, but a machine absolutely cannot think.
Right.
So the higher you climbed into specialized expertise like becoming a lawyer or a financial analyst, an executive, the more untouchable your position was.
Well, that assumption is officially dead.
Completely dead.
And the data proving its demise, it actually arrived kind of quietly, but very definitively, in March of 2023. Goldman Sachs published this massive labor economics research paper.
This study is wild.
It's mind-blowing. They analyzed the exposure of major professions to AI automation, and they didn't just look at broad jobs. They broke down thousands of individual tasks within hundreds of jobs.
And the results just completely inverted the traditional playbook.
Totally upside down. Let's look at the numbers because they are jarring.
Yeah, hit me with them.
So if we look at the traditional targets of automation construction, extraction, physical labor, only 4 to 6% of those tasks are exposed to AI.
4 to 6%, that's nothing.
It's nothing. Installation, maintenance, and repair work sits at a mere 4% exposure, so the basement is completely dry.
But meanwhile, you look at the top floors. Legal work sits at 44% task exposure.
44%.
Yeah, and office and administrative support is at 46%.
It's just wild. The data reveals this direct, inverse relationship to historical trends. Higher income, higher education professions actually face significantly greater exposure to automation than lower income jobs.
So, look, if you're an executive listening to this, the implication here is massive. AI isn't automating up from the bottom anymore. It is automating in from the top.
Automating in.
The cognitive layer, your domain, the domain of your legal teams, your data analyst, your middle management, that is precisely the target.
The safe harbor you spent, 20 years building your career to reach, it just no longer exists.
Which kind of brings us to the critical intersection of this deep dive. If the cognitive layer is the primary target, we really have to look at how organizations are actually handling the transition.
Right.
And the reality from the sources is, well, the vast majority of companies are fundamentally misunderstanding the assignment.
Oh, entirely. They are treating it like an IT project.
Yes. If I look around at how companies are deploying AI, it looks exactly like how they transition to cloud computing or how they roll out a new ERP system.
Exactly. They buy the licenses, they rip out the old software, plug in a new database, run some mandatory change management seminar, and then they just expect productivity to soar.
And that historical IT playbook is failing spectacularly when applied to generative AI.
Spectacularly.
Yeah.
Because think about it, when you roll out a traditional ERP system, the human being is fundamentally doing the exact same job.
Right, just on a different screen.
Yeah, on a different screen with better data routing. The software is the solution. But generative AI is not a solution in a box. It is a profound capability shift.
And the failure data we have here from ScottWise.ai is just sobering. A 2024 RAND Corporation study shows that over 80% of AI projects fail.
80%.
Yeah, that is double the failure rate of standard IT projects. And then you have this 2025 MIT study looking specifically at enterprise generative AI pilots.
Oh, the Project Nanda study.
Yes, the NANDA study. They found that 95% of these enterprise pilots deliver zero measurable profit and loss impact. Zero.
Absolutely nothing on the P&L.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And just to cap it all off, a 2024 BCG survey notes that 74% of companies openly admit they're struggling to achieve and scale value from AI.
I mean, those numbers represent billions of dollars in wasted capital. 95% of pilots failing to move the needle should freeze any executive in their tracks.
But wait, hold on. I got to push back here for a second because we've all seen this technology do incredible things. It passed the bar exam, right?
Well, yes and no.
Right. We know it can write functional code in seconds.
Yeah.
And even if we account for that Eric Martinez correction mentioned in the source material.
Ah, right, the correction.
Yeah, which points out that Jeep's T4 actually scored in the 48th percentile against human test takers, not the top 10% like everyone hyped up initially.
Still impressive, though.
Exactly. That is still a piece of software passing a notoriously difficult human credentialing exam.
Right.
So if the software is really that smart, how are 95% of enterprise pilots failing to make any money? Is it just like venture capital hype? Is the tech actually broken?
No, the technology is not broken at all. The models work exceptionally well.
Okay, so then what is it?
The disconnect you're seeing between passing the bar exam and failing to generate corporate ROI is entirely a leadership failure.
A leadership failure.
Yes. Previous technology waves required leaders to manage change within their operational silos, right? AI requires leaders to manage a fundamental change in the very nature of human work and in themselves.
Right. So if the failure isn't in the code, then the breakdown has to be in the implementation.
Exactly. And BCG actually quantified exactly where that breakdown happens. They developed this framework. It's called the 10-20-70 rule.
The 10-20-70 rule. Walk me through that.
So through this extensive study of successful versus failed AI deployments, they found that only 10% of the value of an AI initiative comes from the algorithm itself.
Just 10%? Why?
Just 10. Another 20% comes from the underlying technology infrastructure and the data piping.
Meaning a massive 70% of the value creation relies entirely on people and business process change.
Exactly. The technology is barely a third of the equation.
That's crazy.
Let's look at the mechanics of a failed pilot through this lens. Let's say a mid-sized procurement firm decides to adopt AI.
Okay.
They spend the 10% buying, enterprise co-pilot licenses. They spend the 20% securely connecting those licenses to their internal vendor databases.
Right. They do the IT part perfectly.
Right. And then they hand the tools to their procurement officers.
And the procurement officers just use this incredibly advanced AI to write the exact same vendor rejection emails they were writing before, just like 3 minutes faster.
Precisely. They automated a microtask, but the overall workflow remained completely identical. The business process didn't change at all.
So the firm is still processing the same number of contracts in the same sequential order, yielding the exact same financial outcome.
That is exactly how you get a 0% P&L impact.
Oh, I see. So to make that 70% actually work, the leadership has to completely redesign the officer's day.
Yes, completely. Instead of writing emails, that officer should be using the AI to, say, simultaneously cross-analyze 10,000 vendor contracts globally.
Great.
They should use it to identify pricing anomalies and proactively negotiate bulk discounts that humanly would have taken them 6 months to spot.
But that requires an entirely different human behavior.
It does. It requires new metrics for success, new risk tolerances, and honestly, often an entirely different psychological approach from the employee who is probably terrified the tool is just there to replace them.
Right. If you just drop a highly capable AI into a legacy human process without redesigning that human element, the ROI just evaporates.
It's gone.
And I think the terrifying part of this equation is the velocity of it all. It's not just that mastering that 70% human element is difficult. It's that you have very, very little time to figure it out.
The window is closing so fast.
The source material outlines the speed of adoption, and it's unprecedented.
Yeah.
Like, the telephone took 50 years to reach 50 million users.
Right.
The internet took 7 years. But ChatGPT hit 100 million users in about 2 months.
2 months. It's staggering.
So for a business leader, what does consumer adoption speed at that scale actually translate to in the marketplace?
Well, it translates to compounding erosion for anyone who hesitates. The gap between the companies mastering that 70% and the companies stalling out is widening at light speed.
Compounding erosion.
Yeah, we have September 2025 data from BCG tracking over 1,250 C-level executives. They categorize companies by their AI maturity, and they found that currently only 5% of organizations qualify as future-built AI leaders.
Wow, just 5% have actually figured out how to integrate the human and the machine workflows effectively.
Yes, just 5. But look at the financial separation of that tiny group. Those future-built companies are experiencing 1.7 times the revenue growth and 3.6 times the total shareholder return compared to the laggards in their exact same industries.
That is a massive competitive advantage.
And it gets worse for the laggards. Because they're seeing actual ROI, those future-built leaders are now outspending their rivals on new AI initiatives by more than 2 to 1.
So they are compounding their advantage every single quarter.
Exactly.
I mean, if you were late to the cloud computing transition 10 years ago, the cycles were pretty forgiving.
Very forgiving.
You could just wait to see who won the cloud wars, hire a consulting firm, spend some capital, and catch up in maybe 18 months. You can't do that here.
No, because you cannot buy your way out of a cultural and operational deficit. The 70% transformation takes time to build into the DNA of your workforce.
Right.
While you're sitting there debating which pilot program to launch, your competitor is already redesigning their entire service delivery model.
Scott Wise captures this perfectly in the text. He writes, "Hesitation is not neutral anymore. It is erosion."
Standing still in a winner-take-most dynamic means you are actively moving backward. The penalty for waiting has honestly never been higher.
So let's pivot to the practical application. We know the Penthouse is flooding. We know treating this like an IT rollout leads to a 95% failure rate because leaders ignore that 70% human process change.
Yep.
And we know that hesitating causes compounding erosion. So if you are a leader walking into your office on Monday morning, what do you actually do differently?
Well, this requires a fundamental shift in perspective, and the core thesis of the AI for Leaders program is this massive reframe: integration, not escape; amplification, not abdication.
Amplification, not abdication. Break that down for me.
Right now, the vast majority of leaders walk into a strategy meeting and ask, what human tasks can we automate to save money?
Which makes sense on paper.
Sure, but that is a tactical legacy mindset. The question they must start asking is, what human capabilities can we amplify to create strategic differentiation?
Let's ground that distinction in a real-world scenario, because I think the difference between automation and amplification is just everything here.
It is the whole ballgame.
So if you're listening to this and you're, say, a marketing director, the automation play is looking at your budget, buying an AI copywriter, and firing 3 of your junior staff to save, I don't know, $150,000.
Exactly, which is a purely tactical cost-cutting measure that provides zero competitive advantage.
Right, because your competitors are buying the exact same AI copywriter to cut their costs too. You've just lowered the baseline for everyone.
Exactly. But the amplification play is keeping those 3 junior copywriters and completely redesigning their workflow.
Yeah.
So instead of spending a week writing 2 ad campaigns, they use the AI to generate 500 variations of a campaign in an hour.
Right.
And then they spend their human time setting up real-time A/B testing, analyzing the psychological triggers of the winning ads, and suddenly they're quadrupling the overall return on ad spend for the entire department.
The first approach removes human effort to save pennies. The second extends human expertise through the technology to generate millions.
You really have to look at your team's role and identify the 20% of the work that generates 80% of the business impact.
The Pareto principle.
Exactly. The nuanced client negotiations, the ethical judgment calls, the ability to read a room, the strategic synthesis of really disparate data.
Right.
You use AI to handle the cognitive heavy lifting of data processing so your team can spend all their time living in that high-value 20%.
But okay, let me play devil's advocate for a second. If the AI is getting so incredibly capable-like, if it can process the data, write the code, and pass the exams, why shouldn't I just let it do the whole thing?
I get that question a lot.
Like, why shouldn't a leader just abdicate the complex workflows entirely to the machine and go play golf?
Because of the inherent limitations of the models themselves. And there is this brilliant piece of research from BCG in the source material that visualizes exactly why human amplification is mandatory.
The Jagged Frontier study.
Yes. It's called the Jagged Frontier Study. BCG took hundreds of their own management consultants and had them perform various complex business tasks, some with the help of AI and some without.
And what they discovered fundamentally changes how we view human-machine collaboration.
Totally. They found that AI capabilities do not form a solid, predictable wall. They form what they call a jagged technological frontier.
So what does that mean in practice?
Inside the zone of what the AI is currently good at, things like synthesizing meeting notes or generating initial project frameworks, the consultants using AI were just staggering.
They were crushing it.
Crushing it. They finished tasks 25% faster and produced work with 40% higher quality than those working unassisted.
40% higher quality is a massive leap in professional services.
It really is. Think of AI within its capability zone as a high-speed e-bike.
Okay, an e-bike.
Yeah, you are flying down a paved road, moving way faster and more efficiently than you ever could on your own, but the road you're riding on is a jagged cliff edge. The moment the business task crosses the frontier into deep, contextual, human nuance like navigating unwritten office politics, or understanding the emotional history of a specific client relationship, or applying ethical judgment, the paved road completely vanishes.
And if you are just gripping the handlebars blindly, trusting the e-bike to steer itself,
You fly right off a cliff.
you fly off the cliff.
And mechanically, that is exactly what happened in the study. When consultants were given tasks that fell just outside that jagged frontier, the ones who blindly abdicated the work to the AI.
The ones who didn't check the work.
Right, the ones who didn't apply their own human judgment to steer the output. Those consultants were 19 percentage points less likely to produce correct solutions than the consultants who didn't use AI at all.
Less likely. Because the AI will just hallucinate a perfectly structured, highly confident answer that completely lacks any contextual business reality.
Exactly. If you hand the keys over entirely, you actively degrade your performance when the situation gets complex.
So the human being is essential to navigate the frontier.
Essential. You have to understand intuitively where the machine excels and where it fails, and apply your localized expertise to guide it.
The organizations winning the AI transition are not the ones buying the most expensive software.
Well, no, not at all. They're the ones developing leaders who know how to ride that jagged frontier without falling off.
Wow. Okay, let's pull all of this together. The mission of this Amplified Impact Deep Dive was to understand why AI disruption is fundamentally different.
Right.
And it's different because it's coming for the cognitive work we always assumed was safe. The Penthouse is flooding.
The Penthouse is flooding.
It's different because treating it like a standard software rollout leads to a 95% failure rate in generating financial returns. The real work is the 70%, that grueling, essential task of redesigning human workflows and human behavior.
And we really must stop asking how to automate our way to cost savings and start asking how to amplify our uniquely human expertise to drive strategic value.
Exactly. So look, if you're realizing right now that your internal playbook needs a rewrite, Or maybe that you're focusing way too much on the 10% algorithm and not enough on the 70% human transition. I highly recommend diving deeper into this.
I completely agree.
Go explore the AI for Leaders program and the incredible wealth of resources available at the scottwise.ai website. The entire ecosystem there is dedicated to helping corporate leaders move their teams from simply being AI curious to truly AI capable.
It really provides the tools to build that organizational muscle for amplification.
As we close out today, think back to that inverted building we talked about at the beginning.
The water reaching the top floor.
The water has reached the top floor. The old rules of labor economics and technological evasion simply do not apply anymore. The cognitive baseline is fundamentally shifting right beneath us.
Which leaves us with a really provocative reality to consider as we wrap up.
Yeah, lay it on us.
If generative AI is rapidly raising the floor of cognitive work, literally allowing a novice with 2 months of experience to perform at the level of a 6-month veteran, as the studies show, the baseline of average is moving up.
The floor is rising.
The floor is rising. So in that new reality, what does true, uniquely human excellence actually look like in your industry tomorrow?